talked about budgeting, Peter. You're also very, very passionate about investing. In fact, you've dedicated your life's work to getting more people investing. So, what do we need to know when it comes to being financially literate in terms of investing? Because I think, we've talked about this a lot. Everyone wants more money, and there's so many options now to invest in various things. You've got a lot of people who are kind of shilling these get rich quick programs. And for me, I always go back to what my grandmother said. There's no such thing as get rich quick, but there's so many people offering that today. So what does it mean to be financially literate in terms of investing?
I think the first thing is to ensure that you understand the language. So
Mm,
one of the biggest frustrations that I find consistently every day is this interchangeability between the use of the words investing and trading.
mhm.
Very, very, they're worlds and worlds apart, universe apart, but they're
Yes.
used interchangeably because and people believe that they're the same thing.
Mhm.
If you look at trading, that's one skill set. Investing is a completely different thing. You're investing for the long term. You're buying companies with the view that the company's going to be worth more in 5, 10, 15 years time, whereas with trading is very much that short term. So understanding the language first and foremost is really, really important. My background is that I'm a qualified financial advisor, so I've worked with people to build investment portfolios, and some of the things that we would go through as fundamental building blocks to get people started on the investment journey is understanding. Look, what are you intending to invest for? There
Mm.
has to be a reason behind that.
Yeah.
So for many young people, it is, well, I want to get on the property ladder, so I need to save for a deposit or invest towards a deposit. And the next question is, okay, now that we know that that's clear, what does that look like in terms of your time frame?
Yeah.
Are we looking at a 3 year period, a 5 year period? Is it 7 year period? And understanding based on what period or time frame you're working with, what options you have.
Mm.
Now, obviously, the markets are very, very volatile. And this is something again that goes amiss on social media. The downside to the markets aren't highlighted anywhere near enough.
Mhm.
You can make money. This stock will 10x, 100x. That's the kind of stuff that you see all the time.
Yep.
I've got over 200 videos on my channel at the moment where tell people this kind of stuff. And the amount of messages that I've got, particularly now where the markets are quite volatile, where people come back and say, I started investing 18 months ago. A goldfish could have made money in the stock market over the last 18 months because it was going up.
Yep.
And they have this realization to say, well, actually, I didn't think that the markets could turn this quickly. Now I'm sitting on a loss and I really don't know what to do. And they're in that position because they weren't prepared for the potential downsides. So
Mhm.
understanding your time frame is really, really key because that then dictates how you invest and what you invest in. So understanding these fundamental steps are the building blocks to having a successful investment journey. I
Mhm.
do what I do now because one of the things that I would like to get people to avoid is having a bad experience, particularly being the first one that they invest. So
Yep.
they feel like I lost 10, 20%, so therefore I never want to invest again.
Mhm.
These building blocks, they sound boring, they sound old manish, but they are fundamental logical steps that we all need to consider.
That was really interesting what you said about the trading versus investing. I also heard it called speculating. As I think you call it trading or
Yeah,
speculating, basically the same thing, right? It's like, are you
yeah.
investing for long term, or are you playing a game? Are you gambling? And they're very
Hmm.
different kinds of activities, right? Um,
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, I think I've actually watched several of your videos, Peter, and I really liked them. I learned a lot from them myself.
Thank you, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
One
Thank you.
thing I was thinking about is how, I mean, I think that social media right now is playing a lot of is doing a lot in this space, both positive and
Mm.
negative. I
Mhm.
mean, you have people who are advocating safe and well thought out ways of investing, but a lot of
Mhm.
the glitzy things, the shiny things that you see on social media are talking about these speculative investments or not speculative investments, speculative
Mhm.
trading, right? Promises of 100x, 10x.
What they do though is actually quite interesting. They feed into human psychology
Mm,
and that fear of
mm,
missing out. They lead with that quite
mm,
a lot, and it takes, I guess, a certain level of discernment to be able to identify it. It's done very, very cleverly, very, very subtly. It's
Mhm.
tying into social media themes, into people's interests based on what they're seeing on social media, and
Mhm.
it's given that very subtle. And I've seen all of this change very briefly. It used to be very, very blatant. Now it's very subtle. They give you the risk warnings. They use phrases like, you know, um, your money could be at risk here. So they're tuning into the language that someone like myself would actually use, and
Mhm.
they're shifting and tweaking their message. But fundamentally, it's still the same thing underneath. And my
Mhm.
fear is that, for particularly for young people who are easily influenced by this kind of stuff, because social media will have people think that if you're not a millionaire, then you're failing in life, and for some reason. And
Mhm.
it's like, it's not about the money necessarily, it's what you actually want. You
Mhm.
Because people are telling you need a million quid because it might buy this kind of lifestyle. The reality is you probably don't need that amount of money if you really think about what it is that you want. So I think the landscape is changing. It's an interesting space. But certainly when you talk about investing, people need to be mindful that you almost need to have eyes in the back of your head, because it is a jungle out there.